Hello and welcome back to this course of videos on MongoDB NoSQL databases. Now in this video we'll be looking at retrieving documents from our collection, and we'll also be looking at the similar operations in our relational database MySQL. So if you cast your mind back in previous videos, we created our ShoeStore database, and within the ShoeStore database we created the customers collection. Now we want to query the documents that are in our customers collection. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we are actually using our ShoeStore database. So I'm going to run this command here. So we are. Now the way that I query all of the documents and all of the fields within all of the documents in my customers collection is to type db, which stands for our ShoeStore database, and then I'm going to write in the name of my collection, which is customers, and then the method is called find, and I'm going to close with these two parentheses here, which is the way, if you think in JavaScript, the way we execute any function, any method is with these parentheses. So I'm going to run this, and it's going to return the three documents that we have within our customers collection. Now it's actually presented it, RoboMongo has presented it in a tabular format, which is more comfortable for some people to read, but it's really important that we get used to the JSON format. So if we look, we have our three documents here within our customers collection. We have an object ID, our primary key, our object ID. We have first name, last name, age, address. Now we have this email addresses field, which is holding an array, and this reviews field, which is also holding an array, but this array has three embedded objects in it. Now, so we have returned, so this has returned, as you can see, all three documents within our collection, and it's also retrieved every field within each document. So to switch over to the MySQL side, the first thing to notice here is that we have three tables rather than one. Now we spoke about this in previous videos, and now as you'll see in the customers table, we have all of the fields in there except for the two fields that are using this array. Because if you remember, MySQL relational databases don't support arrays and embedded objects as a data type. So instead we have to split our data up among these three separate tables. We have to have a separate table for email address, a separate table for reviews, and a separate table for the core data for customers. So instead of having our two embedded arrays, we've actually had to create two separate tables. And as we spoke about previously, that is to avoid having duplications in our core customer table. So to go back to SQL commands, so first of all I'm going to use ShoeStore and make sure that I'm using the correct database, and that's been processed correctly. Now this is a command that is the equivalent of our db.customers.find. Now select star is saying select all of the fields. Now you can see, if you look in the find within this parentheses in this find method, what you'll see later is we can submit multiple objects. Now these objects can specify things like which particular documents do you want to retrieve, or within documents, which particular fields do you want to retrieve. Now, what we're saying here is we want all fields from the customers table, and we want all documents. We're not specifying the rows that we want, and we're saying we want all fields within those rows. So if I run this here, what you'll see is we get all three rows from the customers table. Now, what we're going to move on to now is I'm going to say I want to only find the documents where the age field is equal to 43. So what I can do is this object in here is I'm just going to put age 43 within this, so this embedded object here, age 43. Now, some of you might realize that I'm not actually surrounding this by quotations here. Mongo is very forgiving in terms of putting quotations around the key of the key value pair. As we mentioned before, MongoDB stores data in the BSON format, which is in kind of extrapolation of JSON. And JSON demands that quotations are around the key of the key value. However, you could actually build insert records and have keys that do not have quotations around them, and you'll see that a lot. When MongoDB returns them to you, they will add the quotations for you. So querying the data is the same as inserting the data. You can actually leave the quotations out, and it will forgive you and assume they are there. So I'm just going to run this query at age of 43. You'll see that it only returns one document, because this one document is the only one that has age of 43. Now, the similar way to do that on the MySQL side is to run this exactly the same. You're saying select star, which is I still want all of the fields in the row. However, I only want the rows where the age field is equal to 43. And you see if I run this now, it only gives me back the James Murphy row, because that is the only one with an age of 43. So we've filtered the actual which documents to return. Now we were going to filter actually which fields within the document are going to be returned. So if I put a comma here, I'm going to put another object in. Now this object is going to filter the fields that are returned. So the only field that I want to return is actually going to be first name. And I'm going to put a colon here of 1. Now 1 tells me, it tells Mongo that I actually want to return the field. If I put a 0, it would be saying that I don't want to return that particular field. So what we're doing now is I'm going to run this query, and it's going to say I only want the record, I only want the documents where the age is 43, and when you return that document, I only want the first name field. Well, there's an asterisk to that, which you'll see in a second. So I've run that query, and it's actually returned me two fields. It's also returned me the ID field. So MongoDB will always return the primary key unless you specify not to. So I can actually say I want the first name of 1. If I put a comma in here and I say underscore ID of 0, that will exclude the ID field. So I'm going to run this, and what you'll see is I come back with just the first name James field. So to nip back to MySQL and to run the same thing, here instead of putting the star, we're going to specify the field name. So select first name, so I'm selecting a particular field from customers, and then there's my where age equals 43 clause to actually limit the rows. So again, this is limiting the fields that are returned. This is limiting the rows that are returned. And if I run this here, you will see it gives me just first name of James. You notice that MySQL, it doesn't return the primary key field by default. There's no difference. So that's an introduction to selecting or finding data from SQL and NoSQL databases, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.